Changing metric units. Sometimes we need to change our measurements from one type of metric unit to another. For the purposes of this example, we're going to use a meter. A meter as our kind of our baseline. It's what we're going to start with. So 1 meter. And then we may want to change it to a smaller unit of measurement or a larger unit of measurement. And we're going to put the smaller units over here. The next smallest to a meter is a decimeter. A decimeter. And then next to that would be a centimeter. A centimeter. Okay, now we're going smaller to the right here. So if we had 1 meter, it's actually going to be 10 decimeters. 10 decimeters. And then 1 meter will also be 100 centimeters. Okay, so 1 meter would be 10 decimeters and 100 centimeters. And we could go smaller yet and go to millimeters, and those you would have 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. Okay, now let's go to the larger side. 1 meter would be how many decameters? Okay, now a decameter is much larger than a meter. It's about 10 times larger than a meter. So if you have 1 meter, you'd have to divide a decameter into 10 pieces and take one of those. So 1/10 of a decameter equals 1 meter. Okay? And then to the left of that, we're going to put a hectometer. A hectometer. And I'm just using 2 lines to write this, but it's all one word. Hectometer. And a hectometer is actually larger than a decameter. And it's much, much larger than a meter. You'd have to have 1/100th of a hectometer to be equal to 1 meter. So in other words, you need 100 meters to equal 1 hectometer. Okay, because a hectometer is a larger unit of measurement, so you need more meters to equal one of those. Okay, so for an example, we're going to say I have 234 meters. I misspelled meter. Meter. Let's erase that. We have an erase tool here. Okay. 234 meters. And I want to know how many decameters and then how many hectometers that is. So a decameter, remember a decameter is 10 times longer than a meter. A decameter is 10 times longer than a meter. So if you have 234 meters, you're going to have less decameters because each one of those is larger than a meter. Each one of them is 10 meters. So how many times does 10 go into 234? That's what you really want to know. 234 divided by 10. Well, 10 goes into 23 2 times. and that would be 20. And it goes into 34 3 times. And then you're going to add a decimal and bring it up to the quotient. And then add a 0 and bring it down here. And 10 goes into 40 4 times. So 23.4 decameters equals 234 meters. Okay, that should make sense. Since a decameter is a longer unit of measurement, it would take less of them to make 234 meters, which is a smaller unit of measurement. Okay, what if I wanted to convert this 234 meters into hectometers? Hectometers. Well, now I have to divide it again by 10, or divide the meters by 100. So how many times does 100 go into 234? Well, 234 divided by 100, well, 100 doesn't go into 2, it doesn't go into 23, but it does go into 234 2 times, because 2 times 100 is 200. Then you have 234 minus 200, which is just 34. Then you're going to add a decimal and bring it up to the quotient, and add a 0 and bring that down. And 100 goes into 340 3 times, because 3 times 100 is 300. And you're going to subtract that, and you'll end up with 40. Add another 0 and bring that down. And 100 goes into 400 4 times. 400. Okay, so your answer now is this. We have 2.34 hectometers is the same thing as 234 meters, because a hectometer is 100 times longer than a meter. Okay, so it would make sense that you would have quite a few less hectometers than meters. Okay, notice a pattern here. If we imagine that there's a decimal here next to the meters, every time we divide it by 10, we move the decimal over 1. So if you remember, a decameter is 1/10 of a meter. It's 1/10 of a meter. So you're actually dividing it by 10. And then a hectometer is 1/100th of a meter. So you start with meters, and you can either divide it by 10 and then divide it by 10 again, or just divide it by 100. And each time you divide it by 10, you move the decimal over to the left one more time. Okay? Now, what if you were really ambitious and you wanted to figure out how many kilometers is 234 meters? Well, a kilometer is 1,000 times longer than a meter. So a meter is pretty short compared to a kilometer. So to get from meters to kilometers, you're going to have to divide by 10, divide by 10, and divide by 10 again. You're going to divide by 10 3 times, because 1/1000th of a kilometer equals 1 meter. 1/1000th of a kilometer equals 1 meter. Okay? So now, if you have your 234 meters, instead of doing the regular division, I'm going to start with the decimal right here and divide it by 10 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times, and the new decimal goes there. So 234 meters equals 0.234 kilometers. Okay, that should start to make sense here. In the next video, I'll show you how to go the other way, how to change meters into decimeters, centimeters, and millimeters.